If you don't know how to recruit a Section 8 tenant, now I'm going to go through the various ways of finding a tenant, communicating with a prospective tenant, vetting out the process, and then eventually putting them in place. So there's one of three ways to start the process of finding a Section 8 tenant. The first one would be find your local county's Section 8 office. You can do a simple Google search, find the office. At that point, you can go to the office, call it, or find an email online, all right? And then this is what the communication is gonna look like when you actually communicate with the office. I'm gonna use an example of calling them. I will call them and say, hey, I am a landlord and I wanna put a tenant in my insert the amount of bedrooms and bath. My 2-bedroom, 1-bath, my 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 4-bedroom, 1-bath in your specific area. Give them the address. Then the next question would be, do you have any tenants with vouchers looking for the specific address or area? If you talk to the caseworker directly, they will immediately either tell you to come in, they'll email you their clients that are looking for a place. But if they don't have somebody, let's just say worst case, they don't have somebody. There are other caseworkers inside the office. So I would go back to the secretary and ask, is there any other caseworkers that are besides this person that I can speak with? And just start nailing down the caseworker. So there's gonna be a little bit of legwork in the beginning, but it's gonna pay you dividends in the end because you should build a relationship with the caseworker, okay? After you get this list of tenants, I would then let them know, I'd call the tenant directly and say, hey, I have a property at 123 Main Street, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. I was told by your caseworker that this might be something you're looking at. Are you still actively looking for a property? At that point, then you should, if they tell you they do, I would ask them for, what their voucher is for, all right? When you receive a voucher from the tenant, there will be a portion that Section 8 covers and a portion the tenant covers. This is an important piece. If you look up what the voucher is for, and you're like, all right, they're giving me a $1,400 voucher, this tenant, it's totally great. See what the portion the tenant is paying. If the tenant is paying, let's call it $300 per month, I would ensure by getting their bank statements that they can pay 3 times the rent. So let's say it's $300, they need to make at least $900 per month to cover the $300 portion of your rent, because Section 8 is going to cover the other $1,100 in that example. All right. Another couple things that you would want from the tenant. I would also want to know who they're currently employed paying them that money. And if they've been there for 2+ years, that's a bonus, that it's positive. The person's a little stable. Remember, this is more like investigative work at this point to determine, is this a good fit for me? Is this a good fit for them? Key question to find out is, let's say you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. How many occupants will you have? You'd be surprised, they may say, I have 4 children and myself, and they still feel that it could work. It does not work. It's gonna, they're probably gonna leave a couple people off the lease or lie. 2, your place is gonna get destroyed. So that would be out of the question. But let's just say they have 3 people or 2 people. That will work in a 2-bedroom. So use common sense here at this point to determine if that works. All right. Another piece that's vital in this whole picture, and it's overlooked because you're just thinking about the money. You need to get a background check on this person. I would do a criminal background check, a background check of how many evictions they've had, and then overall anything that they have open, like bills, bankruptcies, because you want to look at them just like you're the bank. I would evaluate them all levels. What I do at this point in my career is I used to try to cut corners in every aspect by going directly to the tenants, even Section 8 tenants. I would get an agent involved. Why I feel a real estate agent is great for vetting tenants is, 1, they're an intermediary. 2, the tenant will feel that this is more of a professional transaction than it is a informal between landlord and the tenant. Especially in the beginning, you want to make sure there's groundworks where you're not involved in. I feel like you should not be involved in the process. I'd rather have an agent involved at my place. But in the beginning, if you want to, I actually would suggest it's a great learning experience. But for me, at this point, I want to create a barrier. And then after the barrier is created, they provide me all that documentation of their background, their pay stubs, their bank statements. They're not a degenerate gambler. I know the full picture of who I am going to accept at that point versus me communicating with them and them trying to convince me that they're a great tenant. That is the process that I would use right there from A to Z by getting the tenant in place in XYZ. The next piece is, say you do decide that you like this tenant after all of this information. You are going to then have the voucher, you're going to have a voucher that you fill out and communicate with the caseworker. You're going to have to fill out the information and give it back to the caseworker. It is not a super extensive process where you need blood work done. It's pretty simple. You ask the caseworker, what do I need to be a landlord in the Section 8 program? They'll generally give you a form, you fill it out, you give them your EIN information, a voided check, basic documentation about your business, and then they put you in the system, and it's a one-shot done deal in the county. Other counties will do similar activities, and then you get it going. Once you have a CO in place for your property, you will need to get another CO for the HUD inspector. So it's a two-part CO inspection. I would suggest getting friendly with the CO inspectors because this is a tip. Friendly with the CO inspector for housing, he generally knows every active tenant in the program that is renting because he sees their properties. If you are friends with them, like I'm friends with mine, they will give me tips on tenants that are leaving one Section 8 rental and coming to mine. And if they're clean, they're good people, there's not a lot of craziness involved, he will give me a tip, which will give me enough in between the lines reading that I may or may not want to pick this person. So get good with all the right people in the HUD office. I think it's a phenomenal program, but these are the details and the information that I would get everything suited out. And then once that whole entire housing thing is done, it's normal landlord-tenant information that you have to draw up a lease with the tenant. You'll draw up a lease with the housing authority. You'll sign two different documentations. If there's a deposit that the tenant is paying, the tenant will pay you the deposit directly, or if the housing authority is covering it. But get all those things nailed down in the beginning and I would present the lease to the tenant once you have everything set up and go through all those guidelines. But this is my take on how to find a Section 8 tenant, how to go through the steps of recruiting one, and then setting yourself up for success. Is this a foolproof guarantee that's going to work perfect every time? No, but it's going to give you a higher percentage that you're going to find the right person versus the wrong person. So, this thing is constantly being tweaked and refined by me myself. Me inserting an agent was something I recently did over the past year. I've seen it work for me, but there's also nothing wrong with you doing it yourself. But best of luck. Hopefully this helps you out and we can connect. If you have any other questions, I will shoot more videos because these are topics that are brought to me or questions that are brought to me that it'd be easier for me to just share these type of videos and you can listen, learn while you're driving, working out, walking on a treadmill, whatever you're doing. But best of luck. Hopefully this helps.